This week's adventure brings us to Thailand, where we'll explore the world-famous Phang Nga Bay, along with a few bat-infested caves.
Oh my gosh.
Navigate some interesting hotel troubles.
Our toilet backed up into our room. So that was fun.
Attempt to cook with the best chef in Koh Yao Noi.
Small hand, small amount.
And ultimately create some of our favorite travel memories in one of the most affordable places we've ever been.
This was like $5.
And of course, since this is Daily Drop, we'll go through all of the best flights and hotel redemptions that we used to spend just a few $100 for this entire trip. So if Thailand is on your bucket list, then this is not an adventure you'll want to miss.
Well, we've enjoyed our very short stay in Singapore, but short 1-hour flight off to Phuket.
So we'll get to all of the detailed examples in a second, but Thailand was one of many countries that we visited on this trip. So like I said, our flight was just a short hop north from Singapore, and once we found our name in the endless signs at the airport, we were whisked away via long sail boat and off to our island resort.
Off to our island. What a weird travel day. A strange life.
Total cost for this 2-hour private transfer, 3,000 baht, or about $86. And there are cheaper public transfers, which we took at the end of the trip, but the long-tail boat transfer seemed like a great way to start things off. After some refreshing welcome drinks at check-in, we were shown to our room, but before we show you that, let's go over your flight redemption options to get to Thailand in the first place.
So when I was booking our flights here, I was honestly surprised by how many options there are. Now, unfortunately, there are no direct flights to Thailand from the US, at least at the time of recording this video. There is one option offered by Air Canada out of Vancouver, which you could book for 72,000 airplane points. But as you'll see in a second, that is not going to be your best option, since if you're coming from the US, you're gonna have to connect through somewhere, and it'll cost way fewer points by going through a different city. But the other good thing is that Thailand actually has two pretty sizable airports, with BKK in the capital of Bangkok, and then further south in Phuket, there is HKT, which is actually where we are flying in and out of on our trip. Now, in general, Bangkok, which again is airport code BKK, is probably going to give you more affordable options, but it really just depends on where you're coming from and which parts of Thailand you want to see on your adventure. But again, I would venture to guess that if you're going to make the trip all the way to the other side of the world, if you're coming from the US, then you might be visiting a few different places in Thailand or a few surrounding countries. And again, all of those variables might influence your decision on which airport in Thailand you're flying to. Regardless of what you choose, here's a few of the best redemption options that I found to Thailand. The first is actually through Alaska Airlines, who obviously does not fly to Thailand themselves and wasn't previously on my radar as much, but depending on when you're watching this, you may be able to transfer American Express membership reward points to Hawaiian Airlines, which you could then transfer over to Alaska Airlines. Although that loophole is not expected to last very long, but if it's still available, definitely take advantage of it. But most of the economy options I found from the US are around 40,000 points, and from major US cities, you can connect through Hong Kong on Cathay Pacific, connect through Helsinki on Finnair, which is definitely not your shortest option, but you do you, or you could also connect through Doha on Qatar Airways. Now, hypothetically, you can also book Cathay Pacific flights through American Airlines like this one for just 37,000 points and $23 in fees, but considering how wide open availability is directly through Cathay Pacific and the better transfer options that they have, I would definitely start by looking directly through their Asia Miles program. Now, if you're saying to yourself, that is a long flight, what can I do to make things a little bit more comfortable? Well, you could of course search for business class through all of those options that we just went through, including the highly coveted Qatar Q suites if you're really lucky and can find availability. But I also found some lesser known and pretty affordable business class options through Starlux Airlines, which connects through Taiwan for 85,000 points. And while I personally have no experience with that particular airline, pictures online for their business class look pretty sweet. Now, many of those examples have lots of booking and transfer options, largely from One World partners, but another great option I found is through Flying Blue, including this Air France economy flight out of JFK for just 40,000 points and $190 in taxes and fees. But our last example actually brings us to the way that we flew here on Singapore Airlines. In our case, we were coming from Bali, so we had a fun overnight stopover in Singapore before making the short jump up here to Thailand for 13,000 points each. And I do recommend that if you're gonna spend the time and money to come all the way to the other side of the world, then you can save a lot of points and money by visiting a few different countries while you're here. But if you're coming from the US, you've got dozens of routes with Singapore Airlines that'll get you to Thailand via Singapore in all different classes, including this San Francisco to Bangkok flight for just 39,000 points, business class for 107,000 points, and while I couldn't find any onward award availability to Thailand, so you may want to search one leg at a time, Singapore Airlines of course has their world famous first class that you could find to Singapore for 146,000 points and then make the short hop up to Thailand from there. Just remember that with Singapore Airlines specifically, you'll want to look for Savor Award availability through their KrisFlyer rewards program, and in some cases you might be better off booking these through fellow Star Alliance partners like Aeroplan. And if all of that sounded like another language to you and you want to know how I'm actually finding these examples, I'm actually using Daily Drop Pro, which is our incredible travel search tool for both cash and point bookings on flights and hotels, which allows me to search one of these particular routes one time and see all of the available point options without having to manually search on dozens of different programs. So if you want to learn more about that and save yourself a ton of time the next time you're booking a trip, then I'll leave some more info about Daily Drop Pro down in the description. Speaking of Daily Drop Pro, I also used it to find all of the best accommodation options here in Thailand as well, so let's take a look at those next. Now, I do need to admit from the start that I actually didn't book all of our accommodations in Thailand using points, and while there are plenty of incredible options from major brands that we will talk about, like many other parts of Southeast Asia, things are generally very affordable, especially compared to Western culture. And that means that you can find incredible accommodations from name brands here in Thailand for less than $30 a night in some cases. Now, before we get to the incredible island that we're staying at here in Thailand, let's talk about some of those more mainstream point options. In Bangkok, there's this beautiful Marriott Aloft starting at just 11,000 points per night, and just down the road from that is the Hilton Doubletree for 23,000 Hilton Honors points per night, which remember is the equivalent of about 12,000 transferable credit card points. But at less than $100 per night if paid in cash, again I say don't write off those cash options either. Now, if you're looking for something a little bit more luxurious, remember that Hilton did recently acquire small luxury hotels from Hyatt last year, so you could use your Hilton Honors points to book places like this incredible Hilton in Phuket for 95,000 Hilton Honors points per night, or 48,000 transferable credit card points, which is certainly a lot, but if you consider the cash price and uniqueness of that property, it really isn't that bad. Also remember that both Hilton and Marriott offer 5th night free benefits, so if you're staying for 5 nights, you only have to pay for 4 of those on point bookings, plus you could also leverage free night awards, which most major hotel brands offer, albeit in slightly different formats. Now, Hyatt unfortunately does not have any 5th night free benefits, but their award pricing is insane. Like this Hyatt place in Bangkok for, wait for it, 3,500 points per night on off-peak nights, and even this Hyatt Regency in Phuket, where we're spending our last night in Thailand, for just 9,000 points per night. Most of our time here, though, is being spent at the incredible island property of Paradise Koh Yao. Sounds dreamy and expensive, I know, but you'd actually be surprised to learn that we booked this 4-night stay through Capital One for less than $1,000, and we were able to maximize the $300 travel credit on our Capital One Venture X card, which brought the total cost for 4 nights to less than $700. Just goes to show that even for the biggest miles and points nerd like myself, there is a time and place for a sweet cash deal, especially when travel credits are involved, and especially on unique accommodations with a view like this. And for somewhere as affordable as Thailand, I do highly recommend that you consider all of your cash options, even if you are a miles and points nerd like me.
So there's certainly no shortage of mile and point redemptions or cash deals to be had in Thailand, but as always, the last question we've got to answer is, was it worth the long journey just to get here, and what did we think of Thailand as a whole? Well, bear in mind that we only got to see a small piece of this beautiful country, and while I do truly believe that it is beautiful, it has fallen victim to Instagramification like many other popular travel destinations. I realize that is really ironic coming from me of all people, but now that I've shown you all of the perfect, dreamy shots that we got on our trip, allow me to remind you that sometimes the oversaturated green water that you see online might end up looking like this, and that's okay.
Instagram or reality.
I just want to manage your expectations and tell you that it is still an incredible place that I would go back to in a heartbeat. The people we met, the food we ate, it was all just as good, if not better than I had hoped, and with so many affordable ways to make this trip a reality, my only question to you is, what are you waiting for?
Well, we have very much enjoyed our time here in Thailand, but it is sadly time for us to fly to our next adventure. If you want to sign up for Daily Drop Pro and plan a trip like this to Thailand for yourself, then I'll also leave some info to that down in the description as well. But thank you so much for watching. We love you, and we'll see you next week.
I think we should tell some ghost stories.
That's a bad angle.
Noggin.
Oh, they're flying.
This feels like Super Mario Brothers IRL with bats dropping on your head.